Welcome to This Open House, where we talk about all things real estate related. With your hosts, David and Rebecca Guthrie of the Hacienda Group at Long Realty Company.
Welcome yet again, another episode of This Open House Show. I am your host, David Guthrie with the Hacienda Group at Long Realty Company. And not in studio with me is my lovely wife, Rebecca, who I really miss seeing, but apparently she's called in. Are you there?
I hopefully you can hear me.
Does this make you a special guest?
I think John said it made me a special guest.
Wow, okay. Excellent. Well, if John says it,
We'll
it
pretend
must
I'm an expert in something.
be true. It must
There
be
we
true.
go.
All right. Well, no, you're definitely an expert in telling me what to do, but I wouldn't have it any other way. We are going to jump in to. I see my jokes. I have a hard time, honey, because if I can't see you, I can't
you
gauge.
See me, you can't gauge.
It's hard to gauge.
I know.
This is weird. Stats.
I'm sorry.
As of July 31st, 2021. Can you believe it is the end of July already?
Nope.
Nope.
Do you know what next week is?
Anniversary of something.
Our 1-year anniversary of doing the show.
Ooh, awesome.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say your birthday.
You know when my birthday is.
Yeah. So, we're going to have to do something special for our anniversary show. I don't know.
I don't know what we should do.
Well,
We should
maybe.
ask our listeners if they have ideas what we should do. They should email or text us.
I love that idea, and you can always do that at info@thisOpenHouseShow.com, or you can text us at 520-462-2611. Full MLS access. Check out any property in the MLS. Run some of these crazy automated valuation estimates, which I loathe, at www.thisopenhouseshow.com. But let's jump into these stats. Inventory is increasing. It is going up. 941 current active listings as
Which
of
really
July
is a
31st.
very good thing.
Why do you think that is, honey?
Thing. Because I think that it's good for buyers. I actually do think that it's good for sellers. Because the possibility of having a buyer who actually wants your house as opposed to so frantic to get a house that they don't love, that the slightest thing is going to make them walk away.
Right. They have a little bit more choice. So instead of getting their seventh choice, they might get their second choice or third. Sometimes we actually put one of our clients under contract like last week. First offer they made. I felt like it was 2019 again. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
So I really actually do think it's better for sellers because when buyers are less stressed, they're more likely to be willing to negotiate, and small things that normally you could work through aren't as big of a deal.
Yes, happier buyers can get through things easier.
Yes. Yep.
And less stress is going to make people more relaxed.
And let's be really clear, 900 and some listings is still not a lot of listings.
But it feels like a lot because we've, it's been so
We're at
hard.
what,
so
500?
It almost, about that. It was getting crazy low. So prior 7 to 12 months in pricing, median sales price was $250,000 in the city of Tucson. Prior 4 to 6 months, looking in that range, $265,000. And in the last 3 months, $290,000 with a days on market for our sold properties of 4. Properties still, based on my statistics, are getting 101% of list. Now, I'm getting some questions. Why am I seeing so many price adjustments? What's going on? Well, this is the reason, guys. We were having people pricing homes like a moving target. So if we were to go and say we wanted to shoot a basket. Let's shoot a basketball into a basket, but the basket was on a train going 200 miles an hour. We're going to have to shoot that ball way far ahead of that train in order for a chance for that ball to go in. But as it's slowing down, it goes down to about 150 miles an hour, which is kind of where it is. That shooting gets less and less. And so sellers were pricing their homes in many ways, okay, last week things were getting $500,000 in this neighborhood. Let's get $600,000 for it. And they were overshooting. I mean, absolutely out of control, overshooting. And some of these homes, are sitting, and they're continuing to sit. We're seeing this in a lot of neighborhoods around town, especially in central Tucson. We're working with a number of people looking in central, and we're seeing a lot of these properties around the U of A. I'm seeing longer days on market creep up in there, which is fine. But this statistic includes everything. We're not just nailing down. And if you would like to see, maybe you'd like to get a little more of a deep dive in Sam Hughes, El Encanto, Colonia Solana, Blendman Elm, any of these kind of pocket neighborhoods around central Tucson, U of A, or even some of the areas up north, Skyline Bel Air, Skyline Country Club, just to name a few. We can do that. We can really deep dive in and give an even better picture. And right now, as of July 31st, 2021, the median 3-bedroom rent is still sitting at $1,550 per month. And your median sales price for a 3-bedroom creeped up a little bit. We're at $268,000. Principal, interest, tax, and insurance payment, not including things like HOA or other stuff like that, with the 20% down, excellent credit, you're looking at about $1,234 a month, based on what we're seeing without a whole lot of points to get that rate. Savings of $316 per month. The way I get these numbers and the rates is so you guys know, there's so many variables: down payment, loan type, all of these things. We are not loan officers, okay? We have a lot of different loan officers that we know, we work with. We've had some lenders on our show here talking about some of those things. There's so many variables. This is just kind of a moving target as well of things that we're seeing based on a lot of the list we're on and a lot of the lenders that we are speaking with and talking to. Inflation, let's jump over to that. We still don't have the new numbers here. On August 11th, we're going to have the new numbers. Previously, it was sitting at 5%. We're sitting at 5.4% right now. And the consumer spending, this is according to Reuters as of yesterday, increases 1% in June. Personal income gains, 0.1%. Saving rate falls to 9.4%. Labor cost rises, a big one, 0.7% in second quarter, while wages are up 0.9%. So, things are getting more and more expensive. The Federal Reserve, Rebecca, if you remember, they were saying we're going to try to keep inflation at a target percent of about 2%. Yeah, 2%. Yep. And this is a transitory inflationary period because of coronavirus. Rebecca, we're not so sure about that, are we?
I've never met transitory inflation. I'm sorry, but the size and the amount of cereal that was in cereal boxes in 2005 is not the size that was in cereal boxes in 2019, which is certainly not the size that's in cereal boxes today. So, plus, even if your quote-unquote inflation rate is at 2%, that means that every year your dollar is worth 2% less, and that's compounding.
Right. It's absolutely compounding.
Really, it's great to be like, oh, we're only having a 2% inflation rate. Right. But every time you take off, you make your dollar worth 2% less. And then over the course, there's a book called Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. Everybody should get it. Everybody should read it. It talks about this. But I actually wanted to circle back around to why are there so many price adjustments for sellers before we go to break.
Sure.
So this has been true since the invention of the internet, with the ability for people to look at days on market. The longer a house sits on the market, the more people think, what's wrong with the house? When a house falls out of contract, nobody ever thinks, oh, maybe the buyer couldn't qualify for financing, or maybe the buyer got cold feet, or we've had this happen. Maybe the buyer decided to get a divorce.
Maybe the buyer died.
Maybe the buyer died. Nobody ever thinks that. Everybody thinks, what's wrong with the house? And the longer a house is on the market, the more people think that. So when you're doing a strategy for pricing your home, obviously you don't want to leave money on the table. We're not advocating for that at all.
No.
But you do need to be reasonable in your pricing. Because if you list a $500,000 house for $600,000, it's not going to sell. It's going to sit on the market longer. And by the time you actually get to where it's supposed to be at $500,000, it's going to have been sitting there for 60, 90 days. And you're going to end up selling the thing that you could have gotten $500,000 if you hadn't overpriced it.
Right.
You're going to sell it for $490, $480. So there is a saying that pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Don't be a hog. So that's my little spiel before we go into break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pricing is so important in every market. It doesn't matter if we're going sideways, up, or down. I remember back when property values were declining quite a bit, and the buyers were, again, hitting moving targets. Let's get ahead of the decline. And if it's going down 2% a month, I want to offer 10% under where the pricing is. And so everybody does this in every single market. And pricing, though, as a seller, when you go, if it's worth $1 million and you're at $950,000, you're just always going to have more activity, even in a sideways moving market, slightly down moving market, or a normal market, or a rapidly appreciating market where everything goes out the window. Even regardless of what you price it at. If the market is a rocket ship going to the moon, like GameStop stock, okay, then then it doesn't matter what you price that, because you're going to have 500 buyers looking to buy whatever it is you're selling. So anyhow, guys, we're going to see you on the other side of the break. We're going to talk about what substantially the same condition means. We're going to get into some contract stuff here. See you on the other side. Are you interested in the real estate market? What does low inventory actually mean? Funny, real-life real estate stories and things you should never do if you're looking to buy or sell a home. Join me, David Guthrie, and my wife, Rebecca Guthrie. We are full-time real estate agents with the Hacienda Group at Long Realty Company for this open house on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. on 1030 The Voice, where we will discuss all this and more. That's This Open House on Saturdays at 11 on 1030 The Voice. Yes, welcome yet again, This Open House Show. I am your host, David Guthrie with the Hacienda Group of Long Realty Company, and my wife is joining us via the phone, probably hiding out in a bunker somewhere. I don't hear our kids screaming. They must be...
No, so I turned the TV on and I'm outside.
Oh, awesome. Great choice. You can always reach us, 520... They don't get that very often. 520-462-2611. Call, text with your questions, comments, concerns. If you have show ideas, we'd love to hear them. info@thisopenhouseshow.com is our email address, and www.thisopenhouseshow.com. Full MLS search, and also some extra contact info for us here. We always want to be a safe source of information for our clients, and we want to be able to help guide people through. And it's important to remember, I went on a listing appointment yesterday, and really great couple. We're so happy to be able to work with them. But the husband, first thing he said is, all right, let's sit down and negotiate. And I'm seeing a house for the first time. And so, that's not really what we're doing here. We're learning about your needs. We're your advocates for you, and we're going to guide you through this process. And sometimes we have to guide people through processes that are uncomfortable. Things can be difficult sometimes for both buyers and both sellers. And one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about right now is some areas of our contracting that can be a little bit of sticking point for people and cause some conflict, cause some concern. Number one, it used to be in the past that we had these things called non-working warranted items in our contract that were kind of automatic. Seller must repair, seller must fix. We as an industry could not figure out what that list really was. We were constantly getting different lists. And not only could brokers not agree on what all the non-working warranted items really were and what that meant, the attorneys couldn't agree who were litigating this stuff. The courts couldn't agree. The mediators couldn't agree. We just didn't have a meeting of the minds on what these things were. But every single day, we were writing contracts on our Arizona Association of Realtors forms with those things. So we wisely, I think, got rid of that. And now all of our homes are as is. Well, what does as is really mean? What is the definition of is? And when does as is kick in? So I'm going to tell you when that is. Right at contract acceptance. Hey, I'm sorry, honey.
That was terrible. I love you, but that was terrible.
I'm not scripted, okay? So anyway,
I know.
Contract acceptance. When the buyer and seller have a meeting of the minds, we get all signatures on our legally binding contract. That is when contract acceptance. And guess what? That is when our as-is starts. Now, that doesn't mean that things can change substantially. They can get better, but they really can't get worse. So we can sell a home in as-is condition that has no heating and cooling. We can sell a home in as-is condition that is full of black mold and is completely flooded. We can do that.
You mean it should be condemned?
It should be condemned. But we can do that with the proper disclosures as long as the buyer understands what they're getting into. And that is something that the seller must disclose. And we're obligated to disclose if we have knowledge of. But one of the things in Section 5 of our contract under warranties, I'm just going to read this for you. Condition of premises. Buyer and seller agree that the premises are being sold in its present physical condition. That's as is. As of the date of contract acceptance. Seller makes no warranty to buyer, either expressed or implied, as to the condition, zoning, or fitness for any particular use or purpose of the premises. However, seller shall maintain and repair the premises so that at the earlier of possession or close of escrow, the premise, including all personal property included in the sale, will be substantially the same condition as on the date of contract acceptance, and all personal property not included in the sale and debris will be removed from the premises. So you need to get your crap out, is what this contract is saying. That's the boilerplate language here, unless it's removed or modified. And the sellers are agreeing to keep the property in substantially the same condition, including all personal property. Well, what is personal property? We've got a long list, but some of the things on here might surprise you, such as built-in appliances, okay, ceiling fans, remotes. If your fan stops working mid-escrow, you could have an issue there, okay? You need to get that fan working. Whether or not the buyer asks for it, it's not a request, it's a demand. Garage door openers and remotes.
So let's stop. And the reason is because you already agreed to it. In signing the contract and saying, I will keep the property in the same condition, you already agreed to it. So the buyer's not going to say, hey, I need you to fix the fan, because you already said, I will agree to do this.
Right. This isn't a request. It becomes a demand. Right. Here's a weird one. Right. Storage sheds, okay? You've got a storage shed. We've had some serious rains and wind. Mm-hmm. You know, we see some of these are very cheaply made that just, you know, some big tree limb just crashes into it or something. That's all of a sudden, if the buyer's taking possession of that, the storage shed that was brand new, nice and shiny, now has a huge dent in it and the door won't close. That's not substantially the same condition anymore, okay?
Right.
That is something to where, again, whoa, this needs to go ahead and get taken care of. Here's a weird one. Outdoor landscaping, shrubbery, trees, and unpotted plants. Potted plants don't count. Sellers can remove those. That's not part of the property. That's not part of the personal property. You get to go ahead and keep those, sellers. But how many of these saguaro cactuses have we seen, Rebecca, as we're driving around town with all of the rains
or the trees that have
fallen.
Just been completely uprooted.
Completely.
Knocked over. And we're grateful for the rain. Don't get us wrong. We desperately want the rain.
Right.
But we all know that, look at the mountains. Look at the Catalina Mountains right now. They're green because of the rain.
Right. And guys, I hate to tell you this, and this includes our sellers who, with rain comes issues. We're going to continue praying for rain, by the way. I think we're at 8 inches. This is the wettest July on record. And I'm going to wash my car twice a day, whatever it takes to continue the rain to come. Okay, so this is a great thing for us. But, we've got some issues. So let's paint a picture here. Buyer comes, falls in love with the property because of its landscaping. large trees, saguaro cacti. You've got a huge, 30, 40-year-old mesquite blocking the view of the neighbor's house. And then all of a sudden a storm comes along and this old tree that looked just fine is now on the ground.
Right.
Worst case, maybe it falls and it hits the house or cracks something or deals with, we could really get into the weeds on this, and let's do it.
Yep.
Let's say the rain comes, the tree falls, it knocks a hole in the side of the house. All of this water comes in, floods the home, trips an electrical issue, fire springs up. You've got this clash of fire, water. What then? Well, let's pause. We've got another area of our contract. I'm going to take you to our Section 8. Okay, Section 8, guys. Let me just scroll down here. 8B, risk of loss. If there's any loss or damage to the premises between a date of contract acceptance and close of escrow or possession, whichever is earlier, by fire, vandalism, flood, earthquake, or act of God, the risk of loss shall be on the seller. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second. What this means is if a meteorite hits your house, sellers, you are responsible to bring it up to substantially the same condition as of the date of contract acceptance. Whatever that means, let's go in, get the proper people to come fix it in a workmanlike manner so that we can transfer the property in substantially the same condition. However, risk of loss clause, that if the cost of repairing such loss or damage would exceed 10% of the purchase price, either seller or buyer may elect to cancel the contract. So if this damage becomes...
If a meteor hits your house and it's going to cost the entire cost of the house to replace it, the seller can say, nope, not doing that.
Or the buyer can say nope. And here's an interesting thing, because, you might have a house that legitimately, has this picture I just painted for you, burns down. Hopefully you have insurance. Hopefully you have all these things, and you've got your repaired value adjusted for all the inflationary stuff. We've talked about this lots on our show, guys.
Yes, we have.
We've talked about this lots. Call your insurance agents up regularly. And, that
Every
gets
year,
fixed.
You need to talk to them.
Maybe all of a sudden, that new kitchen and new flooring and all the things that you're getting all of a sudden don't make you want to sell the house anymore. So we give the sellers the ability to go ahead and, well, now that it's all fixed up, maybe we do want to stay here, right? I don't know.
Right.
On legitimate, don't burn down your house, guys. It's illegal. You're going to go to jail. Don't do it. But
you will.
You will.
Yes.
You will. But for these kind of things, or maybe the buyer says, I don't care how much mold remediation you do. I don't care who's paying for it. I don't care who's doing the fire restoration. I will not live in a house that's ever had mold. I'm canceling. We want to give the buyer the ability for these big issues to be able to do that. But these are rare. In all the years I've been practicing real estate in Tucson as an agent and broker here, I've never actually invoked the risk of loss clause, not once. I know my colleagues have, and this stuff happens. Never really had to do that because of the way these transactions were going together. So for the most part, you're dealing with substantially the same. How do we deal with these kind of issues? Well, when it comes to weird, strange things like cacti, trees, landscaping, sheds that get broken, you know what the best thing might be to do? Is take a deep breath, pick up the phone, call that buyer up. Call the other agent up, have a conversation, because, what does substantially the same condition even mean anyway? In a case of a 20, 30-year-old tree that's uprooted, is it feasible or realistic that the seller is going to somehow replant a mature tree? That's really not. If we have a 200-year-old cactus that falls over, are we just going to replace it with, some of these things are just unreasonable, not really able to do. Maybe the buyer would feel okay with a different option. And that's the idea. Let's talk about these things. Okay, let's have a conversation and let's figure out what to do. But sellers, what you need to remember in these kind of markets, when things are moving quickly or they're slowing down, to a fast pace, but just not rocket ship pace. We
Right.
need to do the right thing. And so I'm going to tell you the golden rule here on this. Give the buyer the property in substantially the same condition that you know it was and the way you would want to receive the property. If you're doing that, you're probably going to be okay. And speaking of okay, it's okay for you guys to call us anytime you need real estate help. We love hearing from our fans, and we love helping our fans in their real estate needs. 520-462-2611. We're going to be a safe source info for you, and happy to go through and make sure you don't get hit by that tree or that meteorite and fall on a short end of the stick. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us.